أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وما أرسلنا في قرية من نذير إلا قال مترفوها إنا بما أرسلتم به كافرون وقالوا نحن أكثر أموالا وأولادا وما نحن بمعذبين قل إن ربي يبسط الرزق لمن يشاء ويقدر ولكن أكثر الناس لا يعلمون وما أموالكم ولا أولادكم بالتي تقربكم عندنا زلفى إلا من آمن وعمل صالحا فأولئك لهم جزاء الضعف بما عملوا وهم في الغرفات آمنون والذين يسعون في آياتنا معاجزين أولئك في العذاب محضرون. Respectful honored friends, in the verses that we recited, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions a misconception which the non-believers possess. Misconception as to why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not punish them. And those who do not have Iman, specifically Iman with the hereafter, they are always going to look at everything according to dunya alone and not the akhirah. So for them a sign of acceptance would be how well they would be doing here in this world. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala rejects that misconception of theirs, that the fact that a person may be doing well in this world is not any sign or any indication that they are accepted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Hence the opening verse, this verse was revealed that during the days of Jahiliyyah, meaning prior to Islam, there were two business partners and they decided to separate, and one remained in Makkah al-Mukarramah and the other he went to another place. And not long after that, Nabi Kareem sallallahu ta'ala sallam proclaimed Nabuwat. So the one who moved away from Makkah al-Mukarramah, he wrote to his friend, his ex-partner who was in business partner in Makkah al-Mukarramah, asking and inquiring with regards to Nabi Kareem sallallahu ta'ala sallam. And from the things that he questioned and asked was that who are the followers, who are those who are following Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, what's his condition and what's happening there? So his friend in Makkah, he replied to him and said that yes, he has proclaimed Nabuwat, but he doesn't have many followers. The Quraysh are not following him. And the only people who are following him are a handful of low status and weak and poor individuals. So he only has a handful of such weak followers. Other than that, none of the Quraysh are following him. So this is how he had responded. However, this friend of his, he decided to come himself. He inquired with regards to Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam's whereabouts. He came to Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam and he asked Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam that tell me, explain to me what it is that you are giving da'wah towards. Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam gave him the da'wah towards Islam, and as soon as he heard the message, he said, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. He came in the fold of Islam. Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam asked him as well as to what made him come into Islam. To which he replied by saying that one is that whatever you have mentioned, it makes sense. That whatever the message of Tawheed after all, for that person who has intellect and a person who thinks about it, ponders over things, the lesson of Tawheed is simple and the lesson of Tawheed is what makes sense. So he says, Aqal wise, this made sense to me, so that is the one reason. And the other is, because this individual, he had read some of the previous scriptures, and so he had some knowledge of the divine scriptures. So he said to Nabi Kareem Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam that whenever a Nabi has been sent, then his initial followers has always been the weak and the poor. And this was a sign that I was looking for, and this is a sign that was found in you. Upon that Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala revealed these verses, that وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَا فِي قَرْيَةٍ مِّن نَذِيرٍ إِلَّا قَالَ مُتْرَفُوهَا إِنَّا بِمَا أُرْسِلْتُمْ بِهِ كَافِرُونَ. Let us say that وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَا فِي قَرْيَةٍ, and never did we send a warner to a town, إِلَّا قَالَ مُتْرَفُوهَا, but the affluent people said, إِنَّا بِمَا أُرْسِلْتُمْ بِهِ كَافِرُونَ, that we disbelieve in what has been sent with you. Why? Because وَقَالُوا نَحْنُ أَكْثَرُ أَمْوَالًا وَأَوْلَادًا وَمَا نَحْنُ بِمُعَذَّبِينَ. They would say, and they said, we possess more wealth and more children than you. So, وَمَا نَحْنُ بِمُعَذَّبِينَ, we can never be punished. So this was their dalil, you can say, their proof on this basis. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that whenever He sent a Nabi to a town, it was always a mutrafuha. The mutraf in Arabic refers towards bounties of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, gifts of Allah ta'ala. And here mutrafuha means those who were recipients of it, those who are given wealth, and then the word is utilized for the affluent people, people who have social standing. And they have this because of the wealth that Allah Ta'ala has given them and whatever else power they really due to that. So they would always be the ones who would reject. They would always be the first ones to reject. And this was a trend from Sayyidina Nuh alayhi salatu salam, from that and all other Anbiya alayhi salatu salam. Hum aradhiluna ba'di ar-ra'i. That the people would say what to say Nuh alayhi salatu salam. They would insult him as well, they would humiliate him, and they would torment him by saying that these weaklings, these weak people, they are the ones who follow you. So your followers are the weak ones, the lowly ones. So we are not going to follow you. And the reason why the affluent people were the last ones to follow the Nabi was mainly because of their pride and arrogance. So this was the trend with all the Anbiya alayhi salatu salam. Hence Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in these verses, consoles Nabi Kareem sallallahu ta'ala sallam, that Nabi Kareem sallallahu ta'ala sallam should not also feel disheartened by this, that why the affluent people are not coming into the fold of Islam, and especially the Quraysh. Because this is the trend that has happened, and when the other Anbiya have gone through this, then you will also go through the same as well. Nabi Kareem sallallahu ta'ala sallam was from the Quraysh, the most affluent from the Arabs, and that too from the Banu Hashim. So he was from a noble background, and they had great status amongst the people, to that extent that they were the ones who were known as those who do khidmat of the Hujjaj, and they would take great pride in that this is our honor that we have been given, to do what? To honor the Hujjaj, and they would be the ones who would have access to the well of Zamzam. So, and they were the ones who would do tawaf of the Baytullah with clothing on. And only those who the Quraysh would actually give clothing to would be allowed to do tawaf with clothes on. The rest were not allowed to even. So others would do tawaf without any clothes on. But the Quraysh, only they were those who were the noble high ones, who had status. So, and whoever they would then give clothing to would be allowed to wear clothing whilst doing the Kaaba. So they always regarded themselves to be different from others, to the extent that when others would, from Arafat, people would go to Muzdalifah, and then from Muzdalifah to Mina, they wouldn't be there in Muzdalifah. They would say the Muzdalifah is not for us. They would stay within the boundaries of the Haram and not come out from there. Hence when Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam for Hajj, Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam did the Arafat, and from Arafat Muzdalifah, and from there to Mina, as needs to be done. So there were those from there who saw Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam and knowing that Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam is from the Quraysh, who wondered what is he doing here? Whereas he is from the Humasas, those who are the elite ones, you can say. And they regard themselves that we, throughout the days of Hajj, do not come out from the boundary of the Haram. So they would not go to Muzdalifah. So the Quraysh, they had this status anyway. So they didn't easily or quickly come into the fold of Islam. Yes, certain individuals came, but the majority did not. And the leaders surely didn't at all. And this is something that disturbed Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam a lot. That why is it that my people are not coming to Islam? Why is it that Quraysh, knowing that if the Quraysh who had such influence, if they would come into the fold of Islam, then it would lead to others also coming into the fold of Islam, because these type of things has an effect on people. So and then as time passed, most of the Arabs came into the fold of Islam, and it seemed that the last who came into the fold of Islam were the Quraysh. And this disturbed Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam to that extent that when Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam even lost hope, Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam even cursed the Quraysh. That Allahumma jumsinina ka sini Yusuf, that Allah bring upon them the droughts like the droughts upon Sayyidina Yusuf alayhi salatu wasallam during the time of Sayyidina Yusuf alayhi salam's time. And that's when the Quraysh did suffer from such droughts, wherein they had nothing at all. Everything, their crops had dried as well. The animals, even they also died because there was no food to feed them. And they were starving they were so hungry in that they would see smog around them. That is how bad the state had become. They had nothing at all. And that's when they even sent Abu Sufyan, who wasn't a Muslim as yet, that he should come to Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Madinah Munawwara, and ask Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam to make dua for them. So that this curse, and they knew that this was the curse of Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or that this is because of that. That Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he then also mentioned their lineage as well, and that they're from the same tribe, and how they're related and that. So on the basis of those ties, the Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam showed compassion towards them. And Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam being Rahmur Rahim, Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam being Rahmatul lil Alameen, Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam made dua for them as well. And Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam knew as well that even if this state of theirs is removed from them, they will still resort to what they are doing. And this is exactly what happened. They didn't change because of that. The conditions became better for them, but they didn't change at all. Their conditions remained exactly the same. So no change came about within them at all. But Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam made dua for them, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala remove this state upon them. And it is from this incident we get the evidence and proof that it is permissible to make dua for the well-being and the welfare of non-Muslims as well. For instance, the earthquake that took place recently, where in Muslim countries a majority of those who were inflicted were Muslims. Had it been somewhere else where it was non-Muslims, for instance, and majority of those inflicted were non-Muslims, then this is proof that as Muslims it is permissible for us to make dua for non-Muslims who are suffering as well. It is something which is permissible and allowed. And it is something that we should do as well, along with making dua of hidayat for them. But to make dua for worldly prosperity for them, this is also proven here. And that too from Nabi Kareem sallallahu ta'ala sallam himself. So Nabi Kareem sallallahu sallam was always, this would always distress him, that why the Quraysh are not coming into the fold of Islam. And it was the case that they were the last ones to come in the fold of Islam. Many of the other Qabail, the tribes, they all came into the fold of Islam. It was right at the end, until Fatah Makkah, the Quraysh didn't come into the fold of Islam. It is only on the conquest of Makkah that when they now realized that we have no other choice but to come into Islam, that they came into Islam. There were those who came into Islam just to save themselves, but then eventually they also saw the beauty of Islam and they became firm and good in their Islam. This way Abu Sufyan, who was the leader of the Quraysh, because majority of the leaders had been killed and seen off in the battle of Badr. So now he was from the leaders and he was the one who instigated and he was the hand behind majority and most of the battles that took place as well. So even Abu Sufyan at the conquest of Makkah, even at that time he came into the fold of Islam. And when he came as well to Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, Nabi specifically told Sayyidina Abbas radiallahu ta'ala to take Abu Sufyan to that point where he is able to see what he is able to see, the Muslim army. So he can see the state of the Muslim army as to the numbers. And not only that, but to witness the different tribes that had come into the fold of Islam. Because the army that was there, the army had with it different battalions. And these battalions were made of different tribes. And the different Qabail and tribes, they would have their own flag as well. And that was recognized that this is the flag of this tribe and this is the flag of that tribe. Because this is something which was very common in the Arabs. Anyway, even now as well it is the case. So different cultures have different, so there was the tribes. So Abu Sufyan, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam told us in Abbas radiallahu ta'ala to take him. And that to such a point wherein the roads leading into Makkatul Mukarramah narrowed. And a specific point wherein it narrowed quite excessively. So what would happen there is that the horses and the army, when they would pass through there, they would congregate there. Because it wasn't an open pass for them to just easily go through. So they would congregate there. So in congregating there, the numbers would seem even large. So Nabi Karim Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam's idea was that he then sees a large amount of following that the Muslims have in the conquest of Makkah. So Nabi Karim Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam had sent him there, and he witnessed, and he even said, how come has this tribe turned against us? How come this tribe has turned against us? How come this tribe has turned against us? So in this way, he noticed that all of these various surrounding Arab tribes, they've all come into the fold of Islam, and now we are the only ones, and if we are not going to, then we're going to be totally left out here. And then, so in this way, there are those from the Quraysh who eventually came into the fold of Islam. And Nabi Karim Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam gave Abu Sufyan that honor on that day as well, when Nabi Sallallahu said that whoever takes refuge in the house of Abu Sufyan, he'll be protected as well. So these were tactics that Nabi Karim Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam utilized to do what? To win over the hearts of the Quraysh. To win over the hearts of the non-Muslims. And this is why I mentioned so many times that if we want to understand Deen, we need to understand the seerah of Nabi Karim Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, the life of Nabi Karim Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Otherwise, we will come to our own conclusions with regards to how Deen should be. And especially when it comes to dealings with non-Muslims, how are we supposed to deal with them? There too, if we do not have the correct understanding, then we're going to have the extremes on both sides. The one extreme wherein it's a case of all love and joy and everything rosy-cozy on one side, and the other extreme would be nothing but slaughter and kill. Nothing but slaughter and kill all non-Muslims. That is the extremes that we would have. And when we see the life and the seerah of Nabi Karim Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, we see in it the uswa hasana, the beautiful example, and that of great moderation. Great moderation, no extremes. When Nabi Karim Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam would go to absolute extremes just to win the hearts of the non-Muslims. And neither would Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, yes, when there was benefit in going to some extremes. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam did that as well, as we find in the Treaty of Hudaybiyah. And in the Treaty of Hudaybiyah at that time, Sayyidina Umar radiallahu ta'ala, he objected. And he objected to Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And Sayyidina Umar himself later regret a lot how he had objected in the manner that he had done. But Nabi Kareem sallallahu ta'ala sallam remained firm. After all, who is Umar in front of Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam? Even Umar radiallahu ta'ala is nothing at all. To Nabi Kareem sallallahu ta'ala sallam, Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam remained firm on those. And there were those Sahaba Kiram radiallahu anhu who later on even mentioned as well, that there were times wherein we were in such a situation wherein the way out of that situation was the sword, meaning the battle. So we would be able to go to battle and we would be able to get out of that situation. And he said that had we been able to do so in Hudaybiyah, that is what we would have done. But that wasn't the case. That wasn't the case. So for the Sahaba Kiram radiallahu ta'ala, that was very testing. Those who came there, look, we're going to go for Umrah, for instance. And then the Quraysh, they said, no, you can't come for Umrah at all. And then on top of that, a treaty came into place. And the treaty and majority of the clauses of the treaty were all against the Muslims, not in favor of the Muslims, it seemed. And Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam accepted those. And the Sahaba were looking there as well, that whatever conditions they were putting forward, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was accepting. Whatever condition, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was accepting. Whereas not long prior to that, Nabi Kareem Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, when Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam came to know that they are stopping the Muslims from going there, Nabi Kareem Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, at that time his idea was, and Nabi's intention was that no, if they're going to stop us, then we are going to battle with them. If they stop us, we will battle with them. So Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu ta'ala reminded Nabi Kareem sallallahu ta'ala sallam that on this occasion we have come not in battle but we have come to do the Umrah. And that's when Nabi Kareem sallallahu ta'ala sallam then, seeing and assessing the situation, Nabi Kareem sallallahu sallam said that whatever condition they put forward to me, I will be willing to accept. And the condition, this was without them hearing this. The conditions that they put forward as well were all, as I mentioned, in their favor more than in the favor of Muslims. But Nabi Kareem sallallahu ta'ala sallam could see the hikmat and the wisdom behind it. That wisdom and wisdom, that farasat, that insight, that others did not possess at that time. Due to which Nabi Kareem sallallahu ta'ala sallam accepted all of those. And Umar objected, oh Nabi, are you not the true Nabi of Allah? Are we not on the true deen? Then why are we accepting such humiliation in our deen? Nabi Kareem sallallahu ta'ala sallam said to Umar, calm down. And Nabi said to Umar that, look, I did say that we will do the Umrah, but I did not promise you that it is going to be this year. I said we will go for Umrah, we will do the Umrah, but I didn't say that it has to be and it is going to be this year. And one of the conditions that they made was that the Muslims will come back the following year for Umrah, and that too they will not come with open weapons and that. And when they do come for Umrah, they are only allowed to stay for 3 days. Only allowed to stay for 3 days. Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam accepted that condition. And not only accepted that, but Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam, whilst when the following year when they were there, when the 3 days had elapsed, the mushrikeen then sent in Ali radiallahu ta'ala and said that tell your companion that 3 days are over, now leave from here. So when that message was sent to Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam didn't show any attitude. That's who they to stop us, who they to stop us first of all, and who are they to tell us to leave, and we will leave on our time, on our terms. That was agreed. Because those terms were agreed, Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and they departed from there. So all the conditions that were put forward, Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam accepted those. So Umar radiallahu ta'ala came and he said the same things, objection he made to Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he made those objections to Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq. And Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu ta'ala was the Aqsa Jameel of Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the perfect reflection of Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu ta'ala replied to Sayyidina Umar exactly how Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam had replied to Umar. Whereas he was not there, but he said exactly the same reply that Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And he had the full yaqeen in Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Do you not know he is the Nabi? When he is the Nabi of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then he's not going to make any wrong decisions. And if Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was to err in making any decisions, wahi would be revealed, which has happened as well when Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam made an error in any decision also. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent down, for instance, Abasa wa Tawalla and Jahul A'ma. On that occasion as well, there were a few companions who Abdullah ibn Maktub and a few Salman Farsi and a few Sahaba radiallahu ta'ala, who didn't have that worldly status. And Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam wanted to entertain some of the leaders of the Yahud. So Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam at that time felt that look time. So where there was an error in judgment, because Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was a human being after all. That's when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent down wahi. So here Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam made no error in judgment at all. Otherwise wahi would have been revealed. Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam accepted all those conditions. And we find not long after that, 2 years after that, we have the conquest of Makkah. We have the conquest of Makkah. And how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in that 2-year period, how Islam has spread through all these other tribes. That amount of people had not come into Islam prior to that. Because when the Muslims came for Surah Hudaybiyah, they were 14 to 1500 in number. And then 2 years later, when they came to the conquest of Makkah, they were 10,000 in number. They were 10,000 in number. So it just shows that all those years till the 6th year of Hijrah, very few people had come into the fold of Islam compared to those 2 years after the Surah of Hudaybiyah. That was Inna Fatahna Laka Fatahum Mubina, which at that time, even Umar radiallahu, nobody had understood that. That now when this treaty had come about, and the treaty meant what? That there is no war now, and now Muslims can intermingle and interact with the non-Muslims, so the Quraysh now at least they can now first hand see Islam. Because till then they had only heard whatever was on the media. They had only heard what people were saying to them. And they were influenced by that, what the leaders had been saying, but they had not seen Islam closer. Now doors had opened up. They were dealing with Muslims, they were interacting with Muslims. And now they actually saw the difference in those family members of theirs who had left Makkah and gone to Medina al-Munawwara, and the drastic change that had come about within them, and their loyalty to the deen of Islam, their loyalty to Nabi Kareem sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam, so that in that short period of time, so many people came into the fold of Islam. يَدْخُلُونَ فِي دِينِ اللَّهِ أَفْوَاجًا. People were greatly in great numbers coming into the fold of Islam. So when all these tribes, as I mentioned here, in this, or with regards to tactics that Nabi Kareem sallallahu utilized, and also mentioned those who come into the household of Abu Sufyan, will also be granted protection. It just shows that how to understand deen, we need to understand the seerah of Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So we are not on either extreme. And the example itself, when Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam entered in Makkatul Mukarramah, this was the occasion wherein Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam had that opportunity to take out all the revenge he wanted to upon the Quraysh. And never mind anybody else. The Quraysh itself and Abu Sufyan. But no, Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam wanted Abu Sufyan to come into full Islam and accepted the Islam of Abu Sufyan. And the Muhaddithin mentioned Hasuna Islam. Abu Sufyan came into Islam, and not only that, but he became a good Muslim. He was a good Muslim, and he fought for Islam as well. So it wasn't a case of just for the sake of it. At that time maybe, but then when he came into Islam and saw what the reality of Islam is, Abu Sufyan is who is radiallahu ta'ala, isn't it? So Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam on that occasion had that opportunity to shed as much blood as he wanted to in Makkah al-Mukarramah. There were so many individuals that Nabi Kareem could take a revenge for whatever they had done personally to Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam, what they had done to the family of Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam. There were those who had martyred Zainab radiallahu ta'ala anha. So there was his own daughter. All of these, the Nabi sallallahu ta'ala sallam could have taken revenge from them, but it was said for la tasrib alayhim. Today, no revenge at all. No revenge will take him. Why? Because the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam knew that this is the occasion wherein, if Islam is meant for them, this is the time they'll come into the fold of Islam. Yes, if beyond this, now they're not going to come into the fold of Islam, then that's it. And then there is nothing further than that. So how Nabi Kareem sallallahu ta'ala sallam on various different occasions dealt differently, itself just shows us what politics actually is. And what hikmat is as well. The various tribes of the Yahud, we don't have time, will become a history lesson. Different tribes of the Yahud as well, how the Nabi dealt with the Banu Nazir, how he dealt with the Banu Qurayza, the Banu Qaynuqa, different manner. Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam dealt with them differently. Leniency to some and non-leniency to others. These are all examples of us understanding the deen of Islam. That the different tribes were dealt with in different manners, and how Nabi Kareem sallallahu ta'ala sallam left behind for us the perfect example of how you should be dealing with them. So, coming back to the tafsir itself, and that's why it is very, very important that we understand what the seerah of Nabi Kareem sallallahu ta'ala alayhi sallam. And as I mentioned, there are so many such examples of how Nabi Kareem sallallahu ta'ala sallam dealt. There were those who Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam didn't give any respite at all, and he dealt with them accordingly. And there were those who Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam dealt with them with compassion. Nabi Kareem sallallahu ta'ala sallam gave them opportunities. So these are all lessons for us together. So here Nabi Kareem sallallahu ta'ala sallam would be greatly disturbed by the fact that why the Quraysh had not come into the fold of Islam. But the reason is because the affluent people, because of their arrogance, they did not want to lower themselves in having to follow another individual. So it was a pride and arrogance. Although within them they knew that the deen is what the deen is. And one example of Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and many who don't know would be astonished with this as well, that one of the khadims of Nabi Kareem sallallahu ta'ala sallam was a Yahudi boy. There was a Yahudi child, boy, who would do what? Who would do the khidmat of Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So now just imagine. And he would do the khidmat of Nabi sallallahu, and when he became ill, who went to visit him? Nabi Kareem sallallahu ta'ala sallam went to visit him. And on this, Imam Bukhari rahimahullah in his Sahih Bukhari mentions a chapter as well of the permissibility of going to visit a non-Muslim who is ill. Maybe you say, no, a non-Muslim, he should die now, and we will curse him and whatnot, isn't it? But here from this, Imam Bukhari rahimahullah and the Muhaddiseen in the commentary mention as well, that there are some of that opinion that one should only go where there is hope that this person will become a Muslim. And the majority of the muhaddiseen of that opinion, that is not a condition to go there, even though there isn't that 100% or there isn't any conviction that this person will become a Muslim by going there. Then too it is still allowed and it is permissible to go and visit a non-Muslim who is ill. Because in doing so, you will still make dua for that person, and in that dua you will make dua for hidayat for that individual. And that person will also see the beauty of Islam in how you treat them and how you care for them and how you will want to see them as well. So here, Nabi Kareem sallallahu ta'ala went to visit him whilst he was on his deathbed. And that's when Nabi Kareem sallallahu even said to him, Aslim taslim, bring Islam, come into the fold of Islam, accept Islam. So this Yehudi boy, what he did is that he looked towards his father. And his father was a Yehudi as well, of course. He said to him, yes, accept and ati Abul Qasim. They would call him Abul Qasim. That follow Abul Qasim. And he recited the kalima and he passed away. This is barakat of khidmat of Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And his father knew as well that yes, this is what I mentioned, that he even knew that look, this is the true deen anyway. So he didn't prevent his son from becoming Muslim, but he told his son no. And his son became a Muslim at that time. So who was in the khidmat? A Yahudi was doing the khidmat of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. When Abu Talib was on his last as well, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam came to do his iyadat as well. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam came to visit him as well while he was ill. So that is also another proof of visiting non-Muslims who are ill as well. So the Quraysh, they knew about the deen of Islam, but they didn't want to accept it because of their pride and arrogance. But one of the signs of Nabuwwat was, hence again Abu Sufyan, when he was questioned by Hirakal with regards to the qualities of Nabi Karim sallallahu ta'ala sallam, one of the questions that he asked is that Ashrafun Nas ittaba'uhu am du'afa'uhu, that who are his followers? Are his followers the noble people or the weak people? And Abu Sufyan mentioned, it is the weak people. And he thought that is something positive. It's only weak. Nobody important follows him. Because we are in a time wherein that's what matters is, and we look at who's doing what, isn't it? So when he comes to so many masail as well, we look at who are the individuals, rather than what is right and what is wrong. So here too, he thought, fine, I'm saying that, look, it's not none of the influential people or intelligent people, it's all the weak people. And he continued questioning. And then when Hirakal replied to him, he said that I asked you this question. And is it the noble ones or the weak ones? And you said it is the weak ones. And he said that they are the ones whom atba'ur rusul, that they are the ones who have always been the followers of the Rasul. Had you said it is the influential people, then that would have cast doubt upon the Nabuwwat of Nabi Karim sallallahu ta'ala sallam, that he seems something, there is more. It is more about dunya. Here, likewise, these dunya people are there. So he says, this is a sign, an indication that he is the Rasul of Allah. And that is what Allah Ta'ala says here. وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَا فِي قَرْيَةٍ مِّن نَذِيرٍ إِلَّا قَالَ مُتْرَفُوهَا. It is always the affluent people who would say, إِنَّا بِمَا أُرْسِلْتُمْ بِهِ كَافِرُونَ, that we disbelieve in that which we have said. Why? Because وَقَالُوا نَحْنُ أَكْثَرُ أَمْوَالًا وَأَوْلَادًا, that we have more wealth and we have more children than you. So when we are in a better worldly position, then وَمَا نَحْنُ بِمُعَذَّبِينَ, then we cannot be punished, we can never be from those who are going to be punished by Allah Ta'ala. So they took wealth and excessive children, meaning worldly prosperity, as a sign of acceptance from Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. Whereas that has never been a sign of acceptance by Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. Allah Ta'ala gives whoever He wants to. Those who are close to Him, He may give them, He may not give them, but that has never been any sign of acceptance that they take that to be, look, when we are so rich, wealthy and affluent people, then why would Allah Ta'ala punish us? So that just shows that we are, and unfortunately some weak Muslims think that as well. Why are the Muslims oppressed for? Why are the Muslims in the state that they are in? So that means that we are not on the right deen, and these people are in a better position, so they must be better than us. No, that isn't the case. This is how it has always been. Hence in the hadith, Nabi Karim sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentions that in Allah Ta'ala la yanzuru ila surikum wa amwalikum walakin yanzuru ila a'malikum wa qulubikum wa a'malikum. And in another riwayat, in Allah la yanzuru ila surikum wa la ila asamikum walakin yanzuru ila qulubikum. But here in this riwayat of Ahmad, which is more related to this verse, when Nabi sallallahu mentioned, Allah Ta'ala does not look towards your surakum wa amwalikum. Allah Ta'ala does not look towards your appearances, that how fair you are in complexion, how white you are, what color hair you got, and that's eyes and that. So Allah Ta'ala doesn't look at your physical features, wa amwalikum, and Allah Ta'ala does not look towards your wealth, how wealthy you are. But Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, innama kana yanzuru ila qulubikum wa a'malikum. Allah Ta'ala looks towards your heart. The heart have iman or not, and Allah Ta'ala looks towards your amal. So it doesn't matter what complexion you are, what nationality you are, which part of the world you are. It is what? It is your heart. And in the heart is what? It's iman, that is the most important thing. And your amal that Allah Ta'ala looks at. Yes, we as insan, we may look at the color of a person, the passport, the nationality of a person, the race of a person and whatnot. But in the eyes of Allah Ta'ala, these do not matter at all. قُلْ إِنَّ رَبِّي يَبْسُطُ الرِّزْقَ لِمَنْ يَشَاءُ وَيَقْدِرُ وَلَكِنَّ أَكْثَرَ النَّاسِ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ. And say to them with regard to wealth, that indeed my Rabb yabsutu rizq, He spreads sustenance, meaning He increases sustenance, liman yasha, for whoever He wills, وَيَقْدِرُ, and decreases. Again, liman yasha is attached to it. He decreases to whoever He wills, for whatever good reasons. And none of these are any signs, meaning that for whoever Allah Ta'ala increases in wealth, this is best known to Allah Ta'ala. Why? And it is not because Allah Ta'ala loves that person, and that's why He's giving him increase. And the one who Allah Ta'ala decreases, it is not because Allah Ta'ala dislikes him that Allah Ta'ala decreases. But وَلَكِنَّ أَكْثَرَ النَّاسِ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ. However, most people do not know. And if that was the rule, then Nabi Kareem sallallahu ta'ala sallam would have been given the most. He would have been given the most. And not only that, but Nabi sallallahu sallam was given that option as well. Since Jibreel came and said, if Allah Ta'ala has given you the option, if you want, that the whole Mount of Uhud will be turned into gold for you. But Nabi Kareem sallallahu sallam was guided towards that which was correct. And Nabi sallallahu sallam did not desire that. So this is no sign at all of acceptance in the eyes of Allah Ta'ala. Acceptance would be for that person who Allah Ta'ala has given dunya, and they spend that dunya in the right way. This is good indications. As Nabi mentioned, ni'mal malu salih rijul salih. The best of wealth is the one which a salih, righteous person has. وَمَا أَمْوَالُكُمْ وَلَا أَوْلَادُكُمْ بِالَّتِي تُقَرِّبُكُمْ عِنْدَنَا زُلْفَى إِلَّا مَنْ آمَنَ وَعَمِلَ صَالِحًا. Allah Ta'ala says that وَمَا أَمْوَالُكُمْ, your wealth and your children, that neither your wealth nor your children are such that بِالَّتِي تُقَرِّبُكُمْ زُلْفَى عِنْدَنَا زُلْفَى, that they can draw you close to us. That meaning the abundance of these are not those things that will draw you close to us, but إِلَّا مَنْ آمَنَ وَعَمِلَ صَالِحًا, except for him who has iman and does good deeds. So yes, such a person, if they have wealth and children, then that can take them closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because He will use them to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. فَأُولَٰئِكَ لَهُمْ جَزَاءُ الضِّعْفِ بِمَا عَمِلُوا وَهُمْ فِي الْغُرَفَاتِ عَامِلُونَ. And for these people, they shall be multiplied in reward, جَزَاءُ الضِّعْفِ, multiplied in reward, because of بِمَا عَمِلُوا, of what they do, and they will find them, they shall rest peacefully in ghurafat aminun, in balconies. So they will rest peacefully on balconies, meaning in Jannah, lofty chambers in Jannah. So this is what Allah Ta'ala says, that your wealth will not draw you close. Here in this world, your wealth will buy you a lot of things, but it won't buy you closeness to Allah Ta'ala. Yes, إِلَّا مَنْ آمَنَ وَعَمِلَ صَالِحًا. If this person has iman and amal salihah and has children, he'll set the children on the good path. Whatever good the children will do, the parents will reap the reward. Whatever wealth they have, they spend that correctly, they'll reap the reward of it. Otherwise, that is of no use at all. And Allah Ta'ala says, for them is reward, and that is jaza'u dhi'fi. That because of the account of the good that they do, and their reward will be multiplied. Because this is the grace of Allah Ta'ala. Person Allah Ta'ala has given more wealth than another individual, he's going to, and he's able to give more as well. And if he's going to give more, then he's going to get more reward as well, which is the way it is. And for them, Allah Ta'ala says, for them is hum fil ghurafati amin. Ghurafat, balconies. And Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam mentions in the hadith as well, there will be such balconies and chambers, that they will be such that you can see the inside from outside, and from outside you can see outside, you can see inside, and from inside you can see outside. I mean, from outside you can see the beauty of inside, and from inside you can see all the beauty outside. وَالَّذِينَ يَسْعُونَ فِي آيَاتِنَا مُعَاجِزِينَ أُولَٰئِكَ فِي الْعَذَابِ مُحْضَرُونَ. Whereas, on the other hand, those who exert themselves فِي آيَاتِنَا, in our verses, to do what? Meaning, to defeat our verses, meaning to make them seem false. أُولَٰئِكَ فِي الْعَذَابِ مُحْضَرُونَ. They will be presented for the punishment. I mean, they will be seized for the punishment of the fire of Jahannam. That is their outcome. And Allah Ta'ala, many places in the Qur'an where Allah Ta'ala mentions Jannat, Allah mentions Jahannam, Jahannam, Jannat. So where Allah Ta'ala mentioned the Ghurafat there, here Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala mentions fil adhabi muhdarun. And one this riwayat when Nabi mentioned this, where there's these balconies, and Nabi was asked with regards to who, and Nabi mentioned that those who excessively fast, those who have good speech, and those who feed others, these are from the rewards of that person who will have such type of peace balconies. And a person with iman and does good deeds, for them is the lofty chambers in Akhirah. So here in these verses, Allah Ta'ala removes this misconception of those who think that just the fact, and that is non-Muslims, but even as Muslims, there will be many Muslims who are not punctual upon deen, but they think, oh, well, we are fine, Allah Ta'ala has given us so much wealth, and look at these others who seem to be practicing upon deen, and they do not have so much wealth as we have. And they are the ones who are coming to us to help them run the masjid. So, we are the accepted ones by Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, and so not. So they should not be complacent in that way at all. If they are doing good deeds and they have wealth and worldly status, then that is good for them. But if they're not on deen, then all that wealth and whatever other lofty status and titles they may have is not going to bring them anything at all, any closeness to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. So on the day of Qiyamah, when they ask the prisoner, what have you got put on your amal, they're not going to put their MBEs and OBEs and lords and sirs and whatever else titles that they may have gained here. Yes. If they got those titles here and they were good practicing Muslims and that, fine. But if you had nothing at all, but you had all these titles and you had all the various honors in that, and you were elected this and you were elected that, all those statuses and positions is not going to be put on the mizan, and that's not going to draw you any closer to Allah. The official will say, no, Lord so-and-so is coming. You put the red carpet out for Lord so-and-so. Put the who's here? So-and-so, the son of so-and-so MBE. So-and-so and so-and-so, son of so-and-so OBE and whatnot. Those honors are not going to make any difference at all. Who's here? He was in top 10 of the Forbes world most richest people. And he was the owner of, and he had so much shares in this company, that company, and he's the CEO of this or that. None of this is going to matter at all in the hereafter. And that is not going to, those positions and those shares and that money is not going to be even put on the mizan at all. Yes, all those shares and money, and you use that and you shared it with people, and you helped the needy. Yes, that will be put on the mizan. Allah Ta'ala grant us all the understanding. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين.